The post-independence era Indian economy from 1947 to 1991 was based on a mixed economy combining features of capitalism and socialism, resulting in a inward-looking central policies and import substituting economy that failed to take advantage. This model contributed to widespread inefficiencies, dishonesty and corruption, and the failings of this system were due to largely to its poor execution or implementation. However, the service sector is a dominant sector in terms of its contributions in the growth processes. It is a growth engine not only for the national economy, but also for many states. This sector can provide many job opportunities ranging from highly skilled to unskilled laborers in a variety of activities. This integrated development of manufacturing and the service sector is what the country now needs. Wikipedia says an economy or economic system consists of production, distribution or trade and consumption of limited goods and services by different agents in a given geographical location. A given economy is the result of set of processes that involves its culture, values, education, technological evolution, history, social organization, political structure and legal systems, as well as its geography, natural resource endowment and ecology as a main factor. These factors give context, content and set of conditions and parameters in which an economy functions. A market based economy is where the goods and services are produced without the interference and exchanged according to the demand and supply between the participants, economic agents, by a medium of exchange with a unit of currency, market price. The economy of India is the 10th largest in the world by nominal GDP. The country is one of the G20 major economies and a member of BRICS. According to IMF, India is the 19th largest exporter and the 10th largest importer in the world. The economy slowed to around 5% for the 2012-13 fiscal year compared with 6% in the previous fiscal year. According to Moody's, the economic growth rate of India would be 5.5% in 2014-15. In 28 August 2013, Indian rupee hit an all-time low 68.8 against the US dollars. In order to control the fall in rupee, the government introduced capital controls on outward investment by both corporate and individuals. India suffered a high fiscal deficit of US $88 billion, that is 4.8 of GDP in the year 2012-13. Now let us discuss Lgp era in India. In 1991, India adopted liberal and free market principles and liberalized its economy to international trade under the guidelines of former Finance Minister Manmohan Singh under the Prime Ministry of P.V. Narasimha Rao, Prime Minister from 1991 to 1996, who had eliminated License Raj, a pre and post British era mechanism of strict government controls on setting up new industry. Following these major economic reforms and strong focus on developing national infrastructure such as the Golden Diamond project by the Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the country's economic growth progressed at a rapid race with relatively large increase in per capita incomes. The southwestern state of Maharashtra contributes the highest towards India's GDP among all the states. Mumbai is known as the trade and commerce capital of India. Now let us discuss the agricultural sector. India ranks second worldwide in the farm output. Agriculture and allied activities or sectors like forestry, logging and fishing accounted for 17% of the GDP in 2012, employed 51% of the world workforce, and despite of steady decline in its share in GDP is still a largest economic sector and a significant piece of overall socio-economic development of India. Crop yield per unit area of all crops have grown since 1950 due to the special emphasis placed on agriculture in the 5-year plans and steady improvements in irrigation, technology and provision of agricultural credit and subsidies since Green Revolution in India. Industrial sector. Industry accounts for 26% of GDP and employs 22% of the total workforce. India is 11th in the world in terms of nominal factory output according to data compiled through CIA World Fact Book figures. The Indian industrial sector experienced significant changes as a result of economic liberalization in India, economic reforms of 1991 which removed impact restrictions brought in foreign competition led to the privatization of certain public sector industries, liberalized the FDI foreign direct investment regime, improved infrastructure and led to an expansion in the production of fast moving consumer goods. Textile sector. Textile manufacturing is the second largest source of employment after agriculture and accounts for 20% of manufacturing output, providing employment to over 20 million people. After freeing the industry in 2004-2005 from a number of limitations, primary, financial, the government provided a green light to massive investment inflows both domestic and foreign. During the period from 2004 to 2008, total investment amounted to $27 billion. However, demand for Indian textile in world market continues to fall. Ludhiana produces 90% of woolens in India and is known as Manchester of India. Tirupur has gained universal recognition as the leading source of hosiery, weaved garments, casual wear and sportswears. Service sector. India is 13th service output. The service sector provides employment to 27% of the workforce and growing quickly with the growth rate of 7.5% in 1991 to 2000. It has the largest share in GDP accounting for 57% in 2012. The growth in the IT sector is attributed to increased specialization and availability of large pool of low cost, highly skilled, educated and fluent English speaking workers. On the supply side, matched on the demand side by the increased demand from foreign consumers interested in India's service exports or those looking to outsource their operations. 7 Indian firms were listed among the top 15 technology outsourcing companies in the world. Now let us discuss the retail sector. Retail industry is one of the pillars of Indian economy and accounts for 14 to 15% of its GDP. The Indian retail market is estimated to be $450 million and one of the top 5 retail markets in the world by economic value. India is one of the fastest growing retail market in the world with 1.2 billion people. India's retailing industry essentially consists of the local mom and pop stores, owner manned general stores, convenience stores, hard craft and footpath vendors, so on and so forth. Organized retail supermarkets account for 5% of the market. In 2012, government permitted 51% FDI in multi-brand retail and 100% FDI in single brand retail. Moreover, 30 regulations such as signboard license and anti-hoarding measures may have to be compelled before the store can be open doors. There are taxes for moving goods from state to state and even within states. Now let us discuss the tourism sectors. Tourism in India is relatively underdeveloped, but a high growth sector. It contributes 6.23% to the national GDP and 8.78% of the total employment opportunities. The majority of foreign tourists come from USA and UK. India's rich history and cultural and geographical diversity make us international tourism appeal large and diverse. It presents heritage and cultural tourism along with medical business and sports tourism. Banking and finance service sectors in India. The Indian money market is classified into organized sector comprising private, public, foreign owned commercial banks and cooperative banks, together known as scheduled banks, and the unorganized sector, which includes individual or family owned indigenous bankers or money lenders and non-banking financial companies. The unorganized sector and the microcredit are still favored over traditional banks in rural and suburban areas, especially for non-productive purposes like ceremonies and short duration loans. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi nationalized 14 banks in 1969, followed by 6 other banks in 1980, and made it mandatory for banks to provide 40% of their net credit to priority sectors like agriculture, small scale industry, rural retail sector, small business, so on and so forth, to ensure that the banks fulfill their social and developmental goals. Since liberalization, and the government has approved significant banking reforms. While some of these relate to nationalized banks like encouraging mergers, reducing government interference and increasing profitability and competencies, other reforms have opened up for banking and insurance sectors to private and foreign players. Despite of the massive support of the government, the foreign direct investment in the banking sector are hesitating to invest in India due to their bitter experiences with Indian customers. Now let us discuss the infrastructure sector in India. India has the world's third largest road network, covering more than 4.3 million kilometers and carrying 60% of the freight and 87% of the passenger traffic. Indian Railways, which has revealed 7,000 crores profit in 1914, this is the fourth largest rail network in the world, with a track length of 1,14,500 kilometers. India has 13 major ports including cargo volume of 850 million tons in 2010. India has national teledensity area of 74%, which 926.53 million telephone subscribers, 2/3 of them in urban areas, but internet use is rare with around 13.3 million broadband lines in India in December 2011. However, this is growing and is expected to boom following the expansion of 3G and Wi-Fi Max services. Until the liberalization of 1991, India was largely and internationally isolated from the world markets to protect its economy and to achieve self-reliance. Foreign trade was subject to import tariffs, export taxes and quantitative restrictions, while foreign direct investment (FDI) was restricted by upper limit, equity participation, restriction on technology transfer, export obligations and government approvals. These approvals were needed for nearly 60% of new foreign direct investment in the industrial sector. The restrictions ensured that foreign direct investment averaged only around $200 million annually between 1985 to 1991. A large percentage of capital flows consisted of foreign aid, commercial borrowing and deposits of non-resident Indians. Since liberalization, the value of India's international trade has increased sharply, with the contribution of total trade in goods and services to GDP 47% in 2008 to 10. Now, let us discuss some of the issues relating to foreign direct investment. As per the third largest economy in the world in purchasing power parity terms, India is a preferred destination for FDI. During the year 2011, FDI inflow into India stood at $36.5 billion. India has strengths in telecommunication, information technology and other significant areas such as auto components, chemicals and jewellery, so on and so forth. Despite a rush in foreign investment, rigid FDI policies were significant interruption. However, due to positive economic reforms aimed at motivating foreign investment, India has positioned itself as one of the front runner of the rapidly growing Asia Pacific region. India has a large pool of skilled managerial and technical expertise. The size of the middle class population stands at 300 million and representing a growing consumer market. The tremendously high investment from Mauritius is due to directing of international funds through the country, given significant tax advantages. Double taxation is avoided due to a tax treaty between India and Mauritius. And Mauritius is a capital gains tax haven, effectively creating a zero taxation FDI channel. India's recently liberalized FDI policy 2005 allows up to 100% FDI stake in ventures. Industrial policy reforms have substantially reduced industrial licensing requirements, removed restrictions on expansion and facilitated easy access to foreign technology and foreign direct investment FDI. The upward moving growth curve of the real sector wants some credit to a booming economy and liberalized FDI regime, including built up infrastructure and construction development projects comprising housing, commercial premises, hospitals, educational institutions, recreational facilities and city and regional level infrastructure. According to World Bank International Poverty Line methodology, India's poverty dropped from 42% of its total population in 2005, about 33% in 2010. In rural India, about 34% of the population lives less than $1.25 per day. Since the early 1950s, successive governments have implemented various schemes to alleviate poverty under central planning that have met with biased achievement. In 2011, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program was widely criticized as no more effective than other poverty reduction programs in India. Despite its best purposes, MG Narega is set with controversy about corrupt officials, deficit financing as a source of funds, poor quality of infrastructure built under this program and intended destructive effect on poverty. Starvation. India has about 61 million children under the age of 5 who are chronically hungered compared to 150 million children worldwide. Majority of half-starved children of India live in rural areas. Girls tend to be more hungered than boys. Starvation claims this report is not a matter of income, rather it is education as in other parts of the world. Indian government has launched several major programs with mandated social spending program to address child hunger problem. However, Indian government has largely failed. A public distribution system that targets subsidized food to the poor and West midday meals scheme, to which 120 million children subscribe, are hampered by inefficiency, ineffectiveness and corruption. Many poor nations are dependent on farming, and so such food aid amounts to be food dumping. In the past few decades, more powerful nations have used this as a foreign policy tool for dominance rather than real aid. Employment. Government schemes that target eradication of both poverty and unemployment, which in recent decades has sent millions of poor and unskilled people into urban areas in search of livelihoods, attempt to solve the problem by providing financial assistance for setting up businesses, setting up public sector enterprises, so on and so forth. The decline in the organized employment due to the decreased role in the public sector after liberalization has further underlined the need for focusing on the better education and has also put political pressure on further reforms.